YouTube and welcome to my channel. I'm Evermore and this is my speaker box. I decided to make a Bluetooth box that wasn't just your average box. I wanted it to be high-end, looks good on the shelf, and beats the rest. So when designing this, I undersized it a little bit, and it was a constant battle. So I'm going to have some videos, some pictures. I'm not going to have a full breakdown of how it's made with all the woodworking. You know, most of you I hope can get that. But this is going to be how the project developed and what it came out to be. And at the end of the video you can hear how it sounds. If you want to skip ahead, you're welcome to do so. But if you want to stick around, I'll show you the inside, what I kind of went through, and hopefully you enjoy the video. So we got a box together, and it's looking pretty good. And what we're going to do now is we're going to try out the sound. So here's some royalty music off of YouTube with this amp, although this is not the one I want to use. This is the first one that came, so we're giving it a shot. And there we have it. Bass is a little high, but I was using some Bluetooth software that bumps up the bass, so that's completely higher than what it should be. But the amp as it sits doesn't really amp up a lot. There's no real bass tone. There's bass boost, but not a lot of bass tone. But this board is 50 watts by 2 and 100 by 1. Realistically, it's about 25 watts by 2 and 50 by 1, because that's just typical. But the box is about 70% sealed. I think the rubber seal that I have around the outside does a pretty good job. All the screws aren't in there. When all is said and done, I may actually seal the front with silicone anyways, or use a secondary gasket. All of these are not sealed, so those are leaking air still, so that'll be sealed. Overall, this box sounds completely amazing as it is. But once it's finally sealed, I'll put some polyfill in there and everything will be felted, so there'll be no rattles. And overall, I think I achieved absolutely what I was hoping. Alright, so with my huge mess and the ongoing battle of getting this thing made, I've wired some of this up, and I figured out how to clean this up a lot better. Got some things wired. I'm not sure about the USB. I got to get that figured out. I think I need to add one more switch so I can turn off the USB, because I'm not always going to use this, so I don't want it to be just sitting on all the time, even though it is only a 1 watt draw at the end, and this does work really well. So this is a regulated power supply. It'll take 24 volts down to 5, and it has a cutoff, so it can't overload. At no point can this thing go, oh, I want to give it 10. It'll cut out at like a half watt at that 5 volts, so it won't let it go through there. And then this takes it and, you know, DC to DC, kicks out all the noise. These are going to get shorter. This does play and sound good. And then I decided I'm not sure if I'm going to splice this into the main audio. You know, it's a little late now. I mean, I'd have to figure it out, or just cut one off and just re-splice everything. But this is an inline 3.5 millimeter sound isolator, and I put one of these on my computer because I can never get rid of a little hiss. And what this would be good for is also, I might just put it in line with the Bluetooth, is it gets rid of any ground loop interference that could be coming from anything else it might pick up, any EMI or outside source of power that would go to this. So what I could also do is I could put it in line with the main audio that's going to the amplifier or out, and that would cancel too. So there's that. So I might add this. And then, so I'm not sure I'm going to weld the batteries. I came up with this idea since I thought for a moment these things were a little bit bigger than this the battery was, these spots were. So I ordered these holders, and lo and behold, these things fit like they're laser cut. So, and it fits just enough to fit 3 of these deep. So I'm going to put 3 of these on either side. So it'll be batteries here to batteries here for a total of 24 volts. And all I'm going to have to do now is solder them up. You know, I'll put spin a black tape around here to hold the battery in the holder. But this makes it so if any of them ever go dead, I can just pop it open and replace it. You know, I don't have to make this hard now, because I couldn't really figure out a safe way to make a spot welder. I don't have one. And so that's what I came up with, and these are relatively cheap. So ongoing, we should have this soldered up and hopefully done by the weekend. One last thing to note, all of this, I was going to mount it in that middle part of the box. What I think I'm going to do instead, since I have the space, I have about, you know, yay, I'm going to put a board. I have thin balsa wood, or a little bit thicker, like 1/8 inch plywood. I'm going to glue a piece here, and then I'm going to glue this to that. And so everything in this box will be on this piece, so that I can just mount that to the back like it's a back panel of a powered subwoofer. And the only thing that'll be separate are the speaker wires and the batteries, which will stay out of the way of each other then. That way there's no bulks of wires. So this actually came together really nice. The only thing in the end is, will this turn on? Will it all power nice? I do need to get an extra switch though, so I can isolate the power to this from everything else, because like I said, I don't necessarily want this on all the time. If, say, I'm connected to a computer or a phone, there's just no need for it. And then of course I have I had a phone charger somewhere that looks similar to one of these things, about that size. It's a 3 amp cell phone charger, and I'm going to tie that into this thing so that you can charge your phone. And that'll be convenient too, because it'll provide me with about 15 phone charges, as much power and amp that these things have. So that'll be good as well, if I could just find it. I'm sure it's amongst all my mess. You know, I had to play around with things. So, you know, you'd be surprised with all this mess just for something so small. But, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll be done soon, and hopefully test it out this weekend. Right, so after a little bit of work and coordination, I came up with this. This sits in there. I almost don't even have to mount anything. So that is my BMS wired to the batteries. So they can pop in, pop out, and then there's going to be a positive and a negative lead coming off here. They come up to the panel, and I still can't believe that little itty bitty thing right here is going to manage 24 volts and regulate the charging of it. So hopefully it's all good. And yeah, I might add a voltmeter later on. Who knows? I'd like to just see the project finish up. And yeah. Alright, so the box is mostly done. It's all wired up. Now, here is the USB plug. I'm probably going to be not doing a USB project with this. I had a USB converter for 3 amp. This plug, it was all wired up. It was going to work. I was going to mount it right here, and I fried it. The wire melted. It got so hot. I was like, why is this getting so hot? I was burning my fingers with the soldering iron. And then the circuit started falling off the board. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to pull the power off the way I had it just touched on. And so that happened. And then this thing is acting up. This, it turns on when you unplug it or tap the button and it comes out. It doesn't turn off. You got to flick it. So it's like acting like the mechanism is stuck. More of this Chinese junk that we got to order, you know, like this is all Chinese. But I can't have a switch that doesn't work. Now it does pop, so I know when it goes off. So it's like pop, you know, and light goes out obviously, but that can't work. So my silicone gasket, I need to trim this up a little bit so it sits more flat. But it seals really well, and overall it sounded great when I tested it. I do have to glue these in. Right now they're just sitting in here, so they'll rock around. This is kind of just floating there. Really, I don't think I'll need to secure it. Once I secure the batteries, this will be fine. Overall, the wires, they don't touch anything. They shouldn't short out against each other. I will test the charge mechanism probably tomorrow. I just don't feel like watching a complete fail and everything blow up tonight. So we will test out the charging portion and make sure it works. I just don't know if there's an indication on this little charge module if and when it works, or if you just hope that it works. I might just pull this stuff back out to set it on the counter. Though I made it kind of modular so I could do that. And then plug it all in to see if it works, put it on a tester, and whatnot. But I think I might replace this with a voltmeter so that, and then maybe add another push button. I know it's more wires, but so I can see the voltage of the BMS as it's going along, and then just put like another one of these touch buttons like that, and I can just press it and it'll show it, instead of putting this charger here. I did really like to have this here, but honestly, if this is setting up on a TV or in the corner of a room, when are you ever going to use it as a backup charger for your phone? And the audio filter I found, evidently, because this thing is already DC isolated. You know, like the power's coming from these, it's not coming from the wall. There is no ground loop. Well, when I take either of my inline filters, the one that didn't work kind of, and the one that does work for my computer, put it on here, it absolutely like kills the sound. So I can't explain why that happens. It just completely takes the signal away. Like there's no ground loop to cancel, so it's like must be like a resistor with some ferrite core or something, and it just evaporates the sound. The line noise level just goes completely away. So I just took it off. So I can't use it, unfortunately. There is a micro hum in this, which is unfortunate. So I don't know what to do about that. I might see if that inline filter thing might still affect it coming off here. And I do need to wire this so that it can be turned off. Now, for the time being, this stays on all time. So if I have it plugged into a stereo, it doesn't interfere, you know, because you can overlap, you know, signals. It shouldn't do that, but it works just fine for what it is. But overall, this sound project is 95% done. Just some tuning and some gluing and some, you know, back work, panel work. And then I got to get that polyfill. We'll stuff this full so there's no echo in the box at all. That should give it a little bit more warmth, and we'll be done. And then I might not ever listen to this. Great DIY project to probably have it sit on the counter for the rest of forever. That's what it is. So enjoy. So I thought I'd go over the box first, just so you all know what it is. This is a 4-inch, this is a 3-inch, this is 1-inch silk dome tweeter. And off to the side here, you can see it's a 4-inch passive radiator. All of these are bought off of Parts Express, or I did it through Amazon. They're all 4 ohm. On the back, we have a recess spot for the amp, and with its controls, you know, you got your bass, treble volume, overall volume. On this part of the panel, we have 5 buttons that control the Bluetooth box, which was separate. Although I wish I hadn't gone this route. They're really kind of useless, but you can do volume, next, left, source, and then EQ in whatever order they got wired up in. This is the power button. This was supposed to be a USB charging port, which I turned into a actual port. Although the hole needs to be sized, I just haven't been around to a place where I've got a bigger drill. This is the charging port, which takes a standard 24 volt charger. And this is your Bluetooth on and off, which I added so that I could get out the hiss if I were using these. Since it is separate from the board, with all the works I did, it still bleeds a little bit of noise in here, a little bit of hissing. But without it on, there's absolutely none. So, all right, let's get cracking and open this thing up. I know somewhere someone's getting enjoyment out of screws plopping down on the counter. So that's why we're doing that. Let's get these out of the way and open this up and see what we got. All right. So let's flip it back over. And we're going to flip this down. And lo and behold, the insides to this box. All right, so here we have the inside of the amp. This is quite the mess. So from right to left, we have some connectors. that allow me to, they're little flip ups, so you can lock and unlock the wires as you need to. So everything, this board is detachable from the unit itself. These aren't hardwired in because they don't need to be. And it also allows me to change the battery packs or change my configuration if I need to. You can get these at Menards. This is the port that I added in. It's about a 1 1/4 hole, so I need to cut my other hole bigger, but it does work. It added a lot of bass even with the radiators. It balanced out it wasn't so hollow after that. These are the 4 or 5 switches going to this MP3 board, which you might be familiar with. It's from AliExpress. That's the best I could get it. I mean, it's pretty small soldering. Underneath here, you have it's a down converter board, or step down. It takes the 24 volts and puts it out to 5, which then goes into this DC to DC isolator, which then goes into here to reduce as much sound as possible. This is the audio out, which splits from this into a cable, which goes to the outside, so that's where it comes in. So both signals can come in from here or here, and then it goes into a sound isolating block, which further kills out any noise, and then that comes over here to the amp. Now this is a 50 by 2 by 100 subwoofer amp, and it's probably the best one that I found on AliExpress. I went through about 50 different boards trying them. Broke a few. Actually tried to desolder the controls, and it ends up desoldering or breaking off the contacts on the board. So I gave up on that and just said, well, how can I mount this? This was not my original concept design. This is what it turned into. It works. Round 2 will be different. I'll make the box bigger, and the board will just fit inside. Maybe at a recessed spot in the top, so its controls are out here or in the back farther. So, all right, well, let's pull out the stuffing and we'll take a further look inside. This is my cheap polyfill for the moment, just because I didn't have any. It's just fleece cloth. It seems to work. So inside here, I've got more of these connectors. They just sit in there, along with the I have a BMS in here that's all soldered. It was all soldered up, and it's sit in here like a tray. I do have a clip on the video. I'll try to cut it in or show you a still of it sitting on the counter. These are 26 650s, lead Ocalas. They're supposed to be 40 amp, I believe, or 50 amp, 5,000 milliamp hour batteries. They do wonderful, last for several days on a single play charge, so that worked for me. And they fit nice and neat in here too. I couldn't believe that when I made these trays. I actually ended up just soldering the trays together and plopping them right in. In the top we have, what is it, I think 2800 kilohertz crossovers. I bought off Amazon. They're not the best, and one of them did actually emit sound, but I didn't think it mattered because it's inside of a box, you'll never hear it, but it didn't seem to affect the value of the music coming out of the speakers. Not to say that it doesn't, but this was a first time build. So those are the internals of the box. That really is all there is to it. And so, all right, so we're gonna listen to some royalty-free music. We'll see what we can get done here.